Hey you guys, it's winter time and I'm super bundled up and I want to tell you about a fantastic activity that you can do outdoors in the winter time when all the plants are dormant. It's something you can make called a wattle fence. This is a finished example of a wattle fence, and today I'm going to show you how I made it. Of course, yours is going to come out a lot different based on what you might have in your area to work with. It's really important to use what's at hand. You may not have what I had, which is hazelnut. Here's another plant that's used a lot for wattling and basket making. It's called willow. Willow takes on a lot of forms, but this is generally what the buds look like. And you may need to look kind of hard to find the water sprouts on the willow, but there's some right here and here. These long straight ones that have no side branches are the ones that you want to choose. Wow, so here is a beautiful willow tree with lots and lots of suckers on it at the bottom, lots of water sprouts right down here, and also an amazing example of why this plant creates the water sprouts in the first place. You can see that that branch fell off. It probably just got too heavy. In fact, it's probably right down here. It fell off, got too heavy, and broke. And you can see all these water sprouts coming out to compensate for the loss of that big branch. So that's why these plants have the adaptation of having what's called adventitious buds. They take advantage of the situation that they're in. In this case, the bud is creating a branch. If you were to stick one of these guys in water, stick a water sprout in water, you'll see what happens. The adventitious buds will form roots. There are some deciduous plants that I would not recommend that you try. For example, this one is a hawthorn, and you can see it's very branchy, and it will have lots of winter berries on it. You could use it for some other project maybe, but I would not recommend this one. It also has big thorns on it, so that would be really uncomfortable to have in your hands. Here's an example of something that makes beautiful water sprouts, but you wouldn't want to use it in wattling. And that is a bald hip rose. You can see the bald hips here. Oops. Okay, you guys, I found a really nice one right here. Look at how many suckers this one has. We're gonna get a lot off of that one. So we're gonna harvest some of this beautiful hazelnut, and we're just gonna take out these suckers. So you want the long, straight ones. And when you're harvesting these, you wanna really respect the plant and get in as close as you can to the bottom and just cut on a slant like that. And you can make yourself a little pile of cut straight whips, and I would suggest that you pile them up with all of the ends going in one direction like this, so that you have all your ends here and then all your whips at the other end, the tips at the other end. I gathered up some suckers yesterday from the hazelnuts, and I just wanted to show you guys that this is a technique we use. I call it a burrito. You're basically wrapping up any plant material that you have in a tarp, just so that it stays nice and moist. I actually watered these guys down because I knew I wasn't going to get to them until the next day. So you can see that they're still pretty flexible, and that's what you want. Might even water them one more time today before I work with them. And as I mentioned last time, I oriented them so all the big ends are here, and all those little ends are there. These upright pieces are called the stays, and you can see that I used pre-cut lumber that I just had sitting around. I had some that had points in the bottom, and I thought that would be easy, but you could also use straight, strong branches. You want to use something about 1.5 inches at least in diameter. Don't use these skinny whips as your stays, or your whole fence will fall apart. Here's what it looks like once you've just put a few of them down. And you can see I've got a long way to go. As you go along, it's going to get a little bit harder to squish these down, to squish down the suckers. And that's normal. That means that your project is going well. And you may find you have to kind of actually weave it like you'd weave a basket, like this. And that's okay too. It's all good. Don't worry too much also about having it be perfect, because if we wanted something that looked like it was made by a machine, we wouldn't be making it by hand. But this is made by humans, and we are variable. We make mistakes, and we're creative, and that's all. That's going to be part of the beauty of what we're doing. So you can see it's starting to come out, starting to come together. Guys, I'm finding it really nice to set it up beforehand, so I remember to go over, under, over, under, over, under, over. Now, what happens if you make a mistake and you go set it up and you go over by accident, and two loop together? Well, there's where you have a choice. Either you can incorporate your mistake and just look at the previous strand to give you guidance on your next strand, or you can go back in and actually redo it. You know, take out your strand, take out your sucker, and redo that one. But you get to choose that. It doesn't have to be perfect. Well, when you're working with nature, this is a way that you can slip into a meditation. So it's nice not to have too many distractions while you're doing this. If you can, maybe try not to have your phone or your music on, and just let your mind not so much wander, because you'll need to concentrate on going over and under, but try not to get too much up into your head. Another thing you can try is to incorporate 2 strands at once. So you want to take two whips or suckers that are about the same length, and you're going to just work them in just as if they were one piece, and we'll see how that looks different. I've been working for about 20 minutes now, and something that I'm really noticing is the birds. That when I first came out, either I just wasn't listening very carefully, or maybe they flew away, but now they've kind of come back. So I'm hearing chickadees, and I'm hearing robins. I'm hearing some airplanes too. But something beautiful about working in nature is that I'm also noticing a lot more about this hazel that I'm working with. Like, I'm noticing the ridges on the bark and the paperiness of it. I'm also seeing like the very bright color of the cambium layer just beneath the bark, that bright green right there. And also noticing those reddish buds. Hazelnut's one of the first plants to come out of its dormancy, come out of its winter sleep. So it's nice to be able to tune in, and I really feel like I'm learning a lot more about hazelnut by doing this project. Here's the difference between the single strand And then up here, this is the double strand. Really, on the top of the screen is the double, and the bottom of the screen is a single. I can't really see that much of a difference, so I'm going to go to a triple. I just want to offer up that you can also use your materials in creative ways if you want to make little windows in your wattle fence. This is how the triple part came out. I went a lot faster, but I think it's probably not as strong as doing the single strands. So here you can really see the difference between the singles and the doubles and the triples. The triples are definitely more rustic looking than those finer ones at the bottom. So I'm going to finish it off with the singles just to make it really strong at the top. I'll find some really long ones too. There's a couple nice ones. So I'm going to make the thick one. I had the thick end over here this time. So this time I'm going to put the thin end over here. And you could either start at the other end or start at this end. It doesn't really matter. But just so that you alternate them. Because otherwise you're going to get all the thickness at one end and all the thin ones at the other end. And definitely push down as you go. Because these guys are going to shrink when they dry. And unless you want a lot of spaces in your fence, you're gonna get skinnier. There you go. Started running out of the longest pieces, so I'm getting creative with how I'm gonna finish the top, and we'll just see how it comes out. So if you did it this way, then you're gonna have a lot of sticks sticking off of the edge here. And you may decide you want a more finished look on your wattle fence. So I want to show you how to kind of finish it off. A couple choices. On the little guys, you can just take these little tips and twist them, weave them in as best as you can. So here, you know, you can see that I've already kind of stuffed those in there. And if we go around the other side, they might be sticking out a little bit, but probably not. And if they are, you can just trim them off. And then these bigger stubs, what we're going to do is just trim them all off to the same length. There we go. We can just cut these off. You're going to need really sharp pruners to do this. Obviously, if you are a little person who does not operate things that have blades, then ask an older person to do this with you or for you. And I may even need to get my larger pair of loppers out. See, I'm kind of really at the edge of the right capacity there for using that tool. So I don't want to push my tools too far. I'm going to go get the right ones. But these little ones I can cut off. Right? There. If you're interested in making the top rounded, you can just take some thin pieces and like stick them down in between where you have a space. Right in there. You can see it just comes up and over. It goes down in a convenient place right in there. So I just made like a lattice work of those at the top, and I'm just going to play around with some of the thinner materials and see if I can make the top feel a little bit more finished and cool looking.